Hi, I'm Margaret Trendelenburg Gait, here to share with you some of the important details about the side-lying leg lift. The side-lying leg lift is a really important exercise to be able to isolate different fibers of the gluteus medius muscle. Our gluteus medius muscle is critical in keeping our pelvis level. Every time we lift one foot, its job is to counterbalance the dropping or potential dropping of the other half of the pelvis. So if we have a weak gluteus medius muscle, we will develop what's referred to as a Trendelenburg Gait, where you'll see the pelvis dropping every time. So this muscle is really important to build before hip replacement, and it's also really important to rebuild after you've had a hip replacement. It's also a critical muscle to build if you have any knee issues, because so often our gait, if it's our walking or the way that we walk, the way that we move, if it's compromised at the hips, it's definitely going to compromise our knees. So what do you need for this exercise? You need a towel of some sort or a little cushion. The size of the towel or cushion is going to depend on your hip to waist ratio. Because if you have a tiny waist and you have nice wide hips, then what you're going to need is a larger support to fill in that space. You'll see how I do that when I lay down on my side. You need a support for your head, and just in case, if you haven't done a leg lift before from your side, you're going to want to have another pillow, cushion, I have a bolster, or yoga blocks, something like that. Because sometimes lifting our leg from the ground up can be really tough on the muscle. And if you're finding that that's the situation for you, just having this ready will be really helpful for you. So I'll demonstrate it with and without. Now, I'm demonstrating from my yoga mat, but I want you to imagine that the end of my yoga mat is for you either the front of a nice smooth sofa, or it could be the wall, because I need you to have a shield or feel like you have a piece of glass behind you that's going to allow you to align your body up against. So just imagine this nice glass wall behind me. As I come down, my sacrum is up against it, and I'm going to create that little, or fill in the space, I should say, here at my waist. So this towel is not going to be on my pelvis at all, but rather just in the space between my pelvis and my lower ribs. That feels great. This is not under my shoulder, but rather just under my head. Now, I want my back to be up against what would be the sofa or the wall, or just so that you can visualize yourself being nice and straight in a line. And same thing with my head. I don't want your head tucked in. You want to reinforce nice alignment all the way through. Now my heel of my leg is going to come down into the mat. Now a really important point here is that oftentimes when this exercise is done, it's done incorrectly. And if I just allow myself to roll back and then lift my leg, I've now used all the muscles in the front. I'm using my quadriceps, my rectus femoris. That's doing the job of lifting, which counteracts the whole reason I want you to do this exercise is to strengthen this gluteus medius muscle. The gluteus medius is right at the top of your buttocks, not in the big fleshy part, which is your gluteus maximus, but rather just behind, if you had the seam of your side seam of your pant, just behind there, where you feel that up by the pelvic bone itself. If you place the heel of your hand there, and then almost encourage yourself to roll forward slightly, just as though you were gently pressing your pelvis forward. And if you come back with your fingertips, you'll feel the front of your pelvis. That bone there, I want you to imagine you have a little light shining off of it. I don't want the light to blind anybody in the room, so I don't want you to ever rock back with this. you're thinking about shining that light so it's hitting the ground about 6 feet in front of you. If keeping your hand here helps you with that cueing, that's great. That's what you should do. Otherwise, I find coming forward, resting my hand or my knuckles onto the surface works really well. I'm going to tuck this hand underneath me. This pillow's a little bit low for me. Good. And so coming forward, now my bottom foot is going to come and support my knee. My heel is in line with my body. When I start the exercise, I'm going to be thinking of lifting my heel up, but also slightly behind. And remember, our hip extension is only about 15 degrees. We don't have a lot of hip extension, so we're just going up and slightly back. We're only going to take up about 5 of those 15 degrees. All right. We always incorporate our breath with every exercise. We start with a breath in, gently blow, the leg going slightly behind me. Inhale coming down, and exhale going up. Now I'm going to start this exercise demonstrating it with my foot pointing just straight ahead. And unless you've been told otherwise by your therapist that you should do it with your toes pointing up or your toes pointing down, because both of those moves change which fibers of your gluteus medius muscle is actually working. But otherwise, you can do it just in neutral. If you're finding as you're coming up that your body is compensating and doing all sorts of things, it might be too aggressive, it might be too hard for those muscles to start with the ankle lower than the hip or lower than the height of the pelvis. So that's where the roll comes in. So I'm going to take the bolster. You could take your cushion, whatever you have, and that's where my foot is going to start. So now I have given this muscle a mechanical advantage. It's going, oh, I'm starting in a neutral position, which is pretty much where it is when we stand. So that's a good place to start strengthening it. So in that same position, you do the exact same thing, pelvis slightly forward, that light shining about 6 feet in front of you, or hitting the ground about 6 feet in front of you, your pelvis staying slightly forward. Take your breath and blow as you lift, and again with the leg going ever so slightly behind you. I'd much rather see you just be able to lift off even an inch or two, but know that you're using all the right muscles. If you use your fingertips here, you're going to feel this muscle tighten and not these muscles tighten. So again, if you start to roll back, you're going to be compensating and using all the wrong muscles. So you might as well not even do the exercise because it's not appropriate then, or not going to help the muscles that you need help in. This is a really important muscle to help you stay stable, helps you with fall prevention, helps you with being able to do squats properly, step-ups properly, and even though it's not the most loading, but it allows you to learn to use the right muscles so that you can progress to doing standing side steps with resistance, and that's a really great bone building exercise. So I really want you to take, the little details, take the time that you need to integrate them into your workout so that you could learn to properly activate this muscle. So I'm Margaret Martin Gait. Thank you for joining me today. If you liked today's episode, you can hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you don't want to miss any future episodes, that's what the notification button is for. And if you want to find out more about my books and my videos, you can click down in the description box below. Thanks for joining me.